This is Deck of Questions on the subject of wisdom of life. My name is Aaron. My partner in crime today, dear Sally.
Are we ready?
After you.
Cover me, we're diving in. This is Baha'i blog, Deck of Questions. I have a great first question here. Would you consider yourself a wise person?
At this stage of life, I hope I've learnt throughout my life. And I hope from that I can provide some wisdom. That's not advice. That's not saying to people, look, what a pity about the young people today, No. But you must develop wisdom over your life, and this is the time to share it. And yeah, do I consider myself wise? Yes. Do people seek that wisdom? Not terribly often, but that's fine too. And Sally, what about yourself?
I don't think of myself as a particularly wise person. I think I'm a really good listener, and I think that I like to synthesize experiences that may add to the wisdom bank at some point. I don't know if wise is one of the words that I would use to describe me, but I do think there's a depth, and I do think that I have things to share.
Yeah, but you're playing with words. The word wise has a feeling of pride, and we don't like to use that.
Yeah, I'm a bit allergic to that word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But depth of knowledge comes from life experience.
Yes.
And that's what we've got.
Yes, we do have that. I do have that.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have that.
So, Sally, tell me, as a young lady, what are the great things about getting older?
The great things about getting older. For me, it's really standing firm in my space. We spoke about it a little before, about not worrying so much about perhaps what other people think about you. You really do develop a great resilience because you've had to. Over the years, if you've lost parents, by the time you're in this stage of life, many of us have lost parents. We've lost siblings, we've lost loved ones. So this deepens our appreciation of life because we know it's not forever. I love the idea that there's still so much to do and to learn. I'm a very open-ended person. So what's gone on before and the journeys that I've had, they will continue. But I think I'm developing discernment and an internal clarity around what really is a soul calling. I think a lot of time can be wasted. I certainly, I'm speaking to me and sharing when I was a lot younger. You don't have a sense that time is finite. It's this open-ended highway in front of you, but we know it's not. So I've learned to respect what I say yes to. And sometimes
You said yes to Baha'i blog.
I said yes to Baha'i blog. I did. And the inner child in me, the 7-year-old shy kid, is going, yes, yes, good. That's a good thing to do. And occasionally saying no with love, but no. And prioritising your peace. That's a good thing that I'm noticing about getting older. It's a good thing to do that and prioritise sleep.
Yeah, that's important. For me, I'm a very selfish person. And the great thing about getting older is I don't worry so much. if it doesn't get done today, I can do it tomorrow. And I don't have that anxiety of getting things finished. And I find I get more sleep, which is what you talk about. And it's a beautiful thing about being older, to be able to relax.
Truly, I don't know if I've hit that spot.
No, you're a bit younger than me.
That's a goal.
That's a goal.
To just to work out the priorities.
Yeah.
To work out your priorities.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Do you have an idea about things in your life that you would classify as underrated or overrated, and why?
I'd rather change that question to not my life, but let's talk about society in general. And, of course, what's overrated is the easy one. Money is totally overrated. Money can't buy happiness. It can certainly help make you happy. I'm not saying we should live in poverty, but the goal of chasing money is certainly well overrated. What I think is underrated in community, and I'm talking about a worldwide community, is that the world today, the generations today, are looking to the future far more than we did. Our parents were brought up First World War, Great Depression, Second World War, rations. It was all about surviving today. Didn't mean they were unhappy, but they were surviving today. But if you look around society today, people are thinking about where will we be in 10, 20, 50 years' time. And that's a huge progress.
Shift, yeah.
Yeah, huge. And I think it's underrated when we're talking about society, how exciting that is for society.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't agree more.
Yeah.
It excites me as well.
Yeah, so I think when we're talking about the doom and gloom, we underrate the fact the world is changing.
Yes. And I think there's some, to your point, I think there's some ideas that are now in the zeitgeist. Their time has come. Their time has come. And, for me, there's a unity consciousness that's emerging, and it needs to be emerging. And as Baha'is, we understand why. We have a beautiful perspective on that. Yes, I can relate to that.
And one example of that would be, I was talking to a friend of mine that's in business, in big business, and he was saying how important it has been over the last 10 years to amplify diversity. But he says, when I talk to my middle managers, I don't ask them, what is the importance of diversity? That's not my question. My question is, where would we be without diversity? Changing the whole framework of the question so that where would we be without diversity? Because nature is full of diversity. That's what it all is. And so to him, a successful business model can only be successful if it embraces diversity.
Yes.
Now that's forward thinking. And once again, I get excited by that.
Yes.
Sally, I'm enjoying these questions.
Yes, so am I.
Can you tell me any transforming moments that you might have had in your life? I'm sure you've had many, but tell us one or two.
Okay. I had a big transforming moment in my early 50s. I did a little dance with death, and it came in the form of an anaphylactic episode.
Explain.
I love how you inhale when I said anaphylaxis, because that's what happened.
Right.
And I stopped breathing and completely traumatised my husband. It was a moment on the Gold Coast where there was a lot of issues with ambulances not making it in time, and people that needed, especially with something like that, an asthma attack, heart attack, those types of situations, it was under stress. The system was under stress. So it was a Saturday night, and I, over a period of about 10 minutes, I was speaking like this, and then I couldn't. So Lyle rushed me to hospital. It was the old Gold Coast Hospital. And by that point, I couldn't speak. I couldn't stand. So I became a medical emergency in a blink of an eye. But I remember asking Baha'u'llah for help, for guidance, and not just for me, but for the other people in the emergency. The registrar took Lyle aside and said, buddy, it's really not looking great.
50-50, yeah.
Well, he said, start preparing yourself.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I can't imagine what that felt like for him. Mm. I felt the most spiritually free that I had ever felt in my life. And I was ready. I could feel Lyle's heart. I could feel Harrison's heart. But I just felt wrapped in love. So there was many hours after that I don't have memory of. I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock the next morning in intensive care. And the lung specialist and the registrar came round, and they're at the end of my bed. And I was hooked up to all these machines. And the colour in my cheeks apparently had come back.
Okay.
I was asking for ginger and lemon tea. I can speak in a sentence. And then I can't, it's probably not going to make sense.
Ginger and lemon tea doesn't make sense, but keep going.
I was really thirsty. And I said this to the doctors, and they kind of said, sure, and they organised it. And I was hooked up to all these monitors, and I looked around, and they told me I was in intensive care. And then I really looked around, and the people near me weren't able to speak. And I thought, this is really serious. What happened was really serious. The registrar said, you're in the fight of your life last night. And I said, yeah, it feels like a freight train has run over me. And I said, you guys are going to think I'm slightly off centre. That's okay. But I feel like I've had this experience, and it's hard for me to put into words, but I think I experienced this connectedness to something that emanates grace and love and peace. And they both looked at each other, and they said, look, if you had shared this story with us when we were young doctors, we'd say, we don't believe in that because we're doctors. But we're here to tell you now, with you this morning, it was a Sunday morning, that we do believe in that because we're doctors. We have seen it. So it was very in comfort. I didn't need comfort from them, but it was comforting that they heard what I was clumsily trying to convey. The reconnection of spirit into my body took a while. It was a viscerally felt thing. It was a very, very serious attack of anaphylaxis, and I didn't feel the enormity of that come to me until quite down the track. I had this incredible desire to be as still. I just needed to be very still. And obviously I'm processing. And, you know, of course, family were, you know, terrified and full of gratitude in the same moment. But something shifted in me at that point. Something seriously shifted in me. And as I moved out of that and put it into some type of perspective, I feel took quite leaps and bounds, because I think I'm a slow learner in a lot of ways. But that was a, you know, pretty dramatic tap on the shoulder. So I came out of that with a gratitude that I didn't know was in me. And I came out of that with an openness, a surrender, like a detachment that I didn't know was in me. Aaron, can you share a particularly proud moment in your life?
Isn't that a difficult one?
Yeah. Why is it difficult?
Because I pick a proud moment here that might involve one member of my family, and there's a dozen other proud moments of every other member of my family. So let me give you two proud moments. One was way back in the 1950s, late 1950s. I married a lady from the Torres Strait. And this was a time when racial marriage was not terribly acceptable. And we're both from the Baha'i community. We both understand that to be married you need parental consent, irrespective of age, although I was very young at that stage. So I'd approach my parents and say, look, I want to marry this lady that you haven't met, because I was living in Darwin, they were living in Adelaide. What do you think? And two things came out of that. One was my dad wrote back and said, yeah, but you got to get, our only condition is that you get married over Christmas, because that's the only time I have holidays and I can come up for the wedding. So that was wonderful. The other story within that is that I was talking to my mother later on, and I said, well, Mum, how did your friends react to this? And she said, well, if they objected to it, they would no longer be my friend.
Beautiful.
And that's, makes, as a son, that makes you very proud. I'm a great believer that we should change. Society should change. Individuals should change. So when my son had his first boy, he came to me and said, Dad, I say this with respect, but I'm not going to raise my kids like you raised us. You were too black and white, you're whatever. So I'm never going to say no to my kids. I'll sit down and explain to them what they should do and shouldn't do. I rolled my eyes and said, well, we'll see what happens. Well, one is 12, one is 8, and they're the most beautiful kids in the world. And I'm just tremendously proud that that change can occur in one generation.
Yes, it is one generation.
Yeah, yeah.
And it sounds like your parents were almost before their time.
Yeah, very much so.
And you would have felt very seen and heard and held during that time, I guess.
And deeply trusted.
And trusted. Really good things to have on board from your family when you're stepping into marriage.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Only good things lay ahead.
What are some of the hard lessons you've learned in your life? Oh, gosh, this could be a long one.
Yes. You thought it was long before, right? Hard lessons I've learned in life. It's really difficult having trust broken. It has been difficult for me. It hasn't happened a lot, but the moments where I've encountered that have been difficult. And I've learned that to see those moments as part of my growth over the years. And to have some type of perspective, you pull the lens out and you've got a much greater perspective. Nobody's going to stuff your life up more than yourself. Nobody knows how to live your life better than yourself. So the hard lessons, I think, would be really owning decisions. The good ones, the bad ones especially, the ones that lead you to a fork in the road. Decisions at that point. It's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to take a breath and reset. I've had to do that. I've had great teachers that have had to do that as well. I mentioned before about discernment. So hard lessons that I've learned have the silver lining of that is you learn so much about yourself. I think you learn more about your failures than your successes. I have anyway. And I think that they're more enduring, the lessons that are learnt that way. We can read forever. We can reflect forever. We can...
well, it's the emotional moments that we remember, isn't it?
It is the emotional moments, and that's okay. Maybe that's the way it is.
Yeah. For me, I'm a very future-oriented person. So once again, I'm talking about Erin in this case. But my big lesson in life, if I didn't set myself goals, then nothing happened. And there were times in my life where it was static. Mm-hmm. And that was because I hadn't said, well, in 5 years' time, this is where I'd like to be. Or this year I want to learn something about this or something. Mm. And the big lesson in my life is, irrespective of whatever age I am, set myself goals.
It's a good thing to do. And it brings the idea of accountability into life as well. We don't want to look back at these years and think, like some do, what literally have I done with my life? Wow, that's...
Well, you and I could talk a long time about what we did do.
Yes. And how blessed we are to be able to have these wonderful parts of our tapestry to... And I know that you're a forward-seeking person, so am I. But I do like the idea of a rich tapestry to wrap around me at times and to adorn where I'm living, to adorn the lives of others. I like that idea. Yeah. My question to you, you've raised a family.
I have indeed.
What advice do you have for young parents?
Any advice I give, I told you, my son said, Dad, I'm not going to raise my kids the same way as you raised us. But that was said with an enormous amount of love and an enormous amount of trust. And they're the two things you need to give the kids. In my opinion, you need to set firm boundaries that apply to them and to yourself. Remember, it's not just the kids. These boundaries apply to you all. They're then applied with a great deal of love and, most importantly, develop a great deal of trust. Mm. And then the rest is easy.
Mm. It's something we work at, isn't it?
It's just constant as a constant in your family life.
It's a constant dynamic in family life.
Yeah. Well, if you had the body of an 18-year-old...
It so doesn't say that.
It does indeed. Can you imagine that?
Oh, my God, who wrote that question?
And it says again. I mean, 18-year-old sits in front of me.
Stop it.
Goodness gracious me. But if you did.
And if you did.
What would you do?
What is that question? I'm talking cognitive holiday brain here. Yeah. If you had the body of an 18-year-old again for the day. Oh, for the day. I missed that bit. For the day. What would you do? I think I'd take a cue out of what my son's not 18. He's older than that, much older. I'd probably go hiking somewhere. I'd go and sit, because it's the middle of summer, right? I'd go and sit under a waterfall somewhere and take a great picnic and listen to crickets. And I used to do that when I was 18 to kind of reset. But it was a summertime thing. I love the ocean, but I also like hinterland spaces if there's water there.
But you can do that now. You don't have to have the body of an 18-year-old to do that.
I don't know how much hiking I do now. Like hiking, proper hiking. I don't know if it's a more casual stroll along the pathway now. But, yeah, a good hike.
Yeah,
I've seen the joy it gives Harrison and, 18, gee.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Oh, if I had the body and the strength of an 18-year-old, I'd rush around the house doing all the maintenance I've let go for the last 2 years.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that what you were doing when you were 18?
Yeah.
You're such a practical man. I love it.
Sorry about that.
No. Never apologise.
If you could magically go back to 1 year in your life, any year, which one would you go to and why?
Oh, there's so many. All right. The one that's coming to the top for me is, and it's directed to magic. It would be when I was a child, probably 5 or 6. I grew up on Clovelly Beach in Sydney, and my mother had 3 children under 4.5. Like, wow. We've been blessed with 1 child, so anybody more than with more children than that is like a goddess to me. But back then, simpler life. Mum would just pack us up, whatever season it was, and we would go to the beach. And it was where the memory of this particular instance was, I remember this loving, not conscious of it, but this is my memory of it. My 2 younger brothers being quite wild, and that I didn't have that wildness in me. Clovelly's a beautiful cove and it's quite protected. Mum had the dog, the packed lunch, those little colourful anodised cups, the fitting cups that all.
Absolutely.
How fantastic. The chicken sandwiches, bananas. And it would be this leisurely moment of time. But that moment for me, that I saw my brothers as a bit wild, then reflected back on me what I was doing then. And I remember Mum, we were lying, on a big blanket, and, I would be looking at, sounds so silly, but it was magical. It's a magical
That's the
memory.
word.
It is. And Mum, I'd be telling stories to Mum about the figures, the lion's head I could see, or, the beautiful tree or some mythical creature, whatever it was. I was read to a lot as a child, so there you go. So there was some form of shape-shifting that happened then. I don't know. I learnt that you can hear the ocean in a shell on this particular day. That was beyond magical to me. I learnt, I learnt colour, like periwinkle shells. The colour of periwinkle is still one of my favourite all-time colours. And I can see shades of it here. Love that colour. That's from nature, those shells. I learnt that there's something in that ozone by the water's edge that is everything. And that moment for me defined something very deep in me and that has stayed with me. I can remember that day like it was not that long ago. And it's decades ago. It's decades. And my mum loves to hear that story. She loves to hear that recollection because my two beautiful brothers, they're no longer with us. Yeah.
It does say go back to 1 year in your life, not one instance or one period. And if I had to go back to 1 year, sort of being a specific time, I'd probably go back to my first year in the highlands in Papua New Guinea, which was so different to anything I'd had in Australia. And the magical moments of being up there in the highlands, in places without water, without any facilities whatsoever, and people so happy, so kind-hearted. It was probably one of the best years of my life. Yeah.
What you're excited about in your life?
At the moment?
Yes.
At the moment, I'm excited about becoming a pleasant old man. By that I mean I'm excited about developing new exploits, new adventures, new ways of giving service to people around me and doing it all within the capacity of my age. And that's not going to hold me back. And I'm excited about the next 10 years.
I'm excited for you. I want to see something.
Come and join me, yeah.
I think I might.
Yes.
Bit of slam poetry.
Yep.
I think there's a slam poetess. Is that the word? Slam poet lurking inside me. I might join you and Jan.
Yeah, because that's what you're talking about. For the benefit of people that are watching this, is that a few years ago I took up slam poetry, and it's just released a whole part of my mind. It's like somebody cleaned a window in my brain.
Wow.
And it's exciting. I enjoy it. And I recommend it to anybody. And so, yeah, come and join me sometime.
I will.
And one of the beautiful things about the slam poetry is that I write poems involving my children in the story. And it's such a wonderful connection. These days of modern communication, I will write the poem, I'll send it to them in Darwin, and they will get onto their camera and read it to me in video. And one will do the reading, one will do the lighting, and it's just wonderful. And as you get older, there's so many wonderful ways to connect with your children these days.
Yes, there is. It's a wonderland, really.
Yeah.
I can feel it in you. It's giving you life.
Yeah.
And that's what life's about, really.
It's pretty good when you've got your OBE, which, of course, to some people might mean the Order of the British Empire. In my case, it's over bloody 80.
Over bloody 80.
Yeah. And it's good to be excited.
Yes, because many aren't. And many don't make it to 80.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
Oi. Well, that's a big old kaleidoscope right there, isn't it? The meaning of life. Haven't they made movies about that?
They have indeed, but we don't have time for that.
We don't
have
have
the movies. No.
Because we're in our own movie, right?
That's right.
Okay. Glad we cleared that up. The meaning of life, I think I've mentioned a few times soul purpose. I think as humans, as we move through life, I'll talk about me. I discovered that I'm not a spiritual person having a human journey. I'm a human having a spiritual journey. And that's something that the Baha'i faith has put into great perspective for me as well. So the meaning of life is realizing your capacities and connection, deep connection with humanity. It's, Baha'u'llah mentions the may your vision be world-embracing. That world can be a neighbourhood. That world can be a home. That world can be a street, a neighbourhood, a village. I like to think of those connection points a bit like the original Avatar movie, where those connection points are lit and connected and alive with love. I think the meaning of life for me is love-centred, to be loved and to give love.
Yeah, and to do that, if I was going to answer that question, to do that, you have to be able to make connection.
Connections.
And to me, that's the important part of life, connection. And that's done through service. Now, that service could be a smile to your neighbour, which is what you talked about. Service can be a huge enterprise, depending on the capacity you want to work in. But meaning of life, connection with others in a positive, meaningful way.
That's our final question. Thank you so much, Baha'i Blog. We've had a blast.
It's been a lot of fun. We hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you to the producers. Thank you for this deck of questions. And I challenge anybody else to do the same questions and find the answers for yourself.